Kalimera, kalispera, kalinichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. It is a new week. It's a blank canvas, but it's also the last week of 2024. And what a year it has been. I couldn't think of a better human being to share the last show of 2024 with. Squaddies, let's rock and roll.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
It is that time of year where we look back, we reflect, and we go into what I like to call transfer torture time. And for those of you listening on replay, many of you will, because it is New Year's. It is not the penultimate. Is it the penultimate? Anyway, the school teacher turned chief Arsenal writer for Football London will help me figure it out. Tom Canton.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Firstly, I would like to say congratulations.
Thank you.
On your promotion, and all of the squaddies. I know you've had a lot of love, but as you know, I mean, I'm not going to say I've known, okay, because I don't, want to make out I'm an ITK.
Of all the things you could be ITK about, it's not that impressive.
But well-deserved congratulations. We also wish Kaya the very best on his next chapter and adventure. And Tom, I'm so proud of you. As you know, I'm one of your biggest fans. And well done. And are you excited?
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be good. I've been looking to experience more Arsenal because for some reason I'm a glutton for punishment, clearly, and enjoy this chaos. But yeah, going to be chatting to Mr. Mikel a lot more regularly, and going abroad and following Arsenal around the world. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
I was going to say, and by the way, I have no idea what's happened with my my graphics. It's doing the big thing, Tom. There's a new button on here called Media Assets, which I thought I'd nailed, and now I've got the big. Anyway, it's all about the squaddies. Anyway, let their light shine. And by the way, I was thinking Arsenal better come to the States again this summer, because it would be sod's law that you've been made chief Arsenal writer, and this is the year that they actually go to Asia or Africa or somewhere else.
Do
you already know?
Wouldn't that just be great? I can't say anything. I don't know anything. I know nothing. Nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Lots of congratulations. So Runs with Cows wants to know, so Tom, does this mean no more covering the Spuds?
Oh yeah, no more Ange Postecoglou press conferences for me, or Enzo Maresca press conferences. It's Mikel Arteta. Yeah,
I love it. Absolutely love it. And our Arsenal Women's Show co-host Demian Arriaga sending massive congrats to Tom. Okay. Lovely to see you. Lots of love coming in for you, Mr. Tom, this evening. And good evening, squaddies. At ease. Morgie, one of your OGs right here. Good to catch you live. Brilliant, deserved news, Tom. Couldn't be happier. Onwards and upwards. Tom is the soup. He's Saka. He is our Saka today, all right?
Oh, God. This is like the worst.
I know you hate it, but I'm just going to milk it because I'm very proud of you. So,
appreciate it.
All right, let's talk about football, shall we? Although... You know how you and I start off a conversation about life before we start talking about football? By the way, I watch pretty much every crappy Christmas show on Netflix.
Yeah.
I watched one with Brooke Shields, a Castle Christmas, a Scotland one where she basically, Carrie Elwes, who I worked with actually years ago, I'm going to show my age here, on a film called Hot Shots with Charlie Sheen. And I watched this movie with Brooke Shields and Carrie Elwes where he played a Scottish duke, if you can be a duke in Scotland. Anyway, owned a castle. Her dad used to work in it. She went up there. She bought the castle off him. They fell in love. It was great.
wow.
Loved it. Yeah,
Spoilers.
loved it. And I wanted to come at you today with another film I've seen. Although I am watching Gladiator 2 tonight. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've not seen the new one. No, I've not seen it.
Part Dieu is the GOAT. I have the funniest story about Hot Shots. I mean, Tom was probably 10 when Hot Shots came out. How old were you in 1992?
I wasn't in existence.
Are you joking?
No, I'm 94. I'm just turned 30.
So basically, when I worked with Carrie Elwes and got totally drunk with Rick Mail and he fell down the stairs at the Cafe Royale in London, you were not born.
No, was not even considered for conception at that point. No.
I want to cry. Literally. So you're telling me when Hot Shots came out, you weren't born yet?
You know, I've been playing along pretty well. I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. So
there's a movie called Hot Shots, which is a parody on Top Gun. It's like a spoof, right?
I know Top Gun. It's that it's the
and weirdly, it was chosen as the Royal Film Performance. It was chosen as the Royal Film Performance that year, which was like took us all at 20th Century Fox by shock and surprise. And Prince Charles and Princess Diana came to the screening. She was wearing this red dress. It was fantastic. It was brilliant. We had the best party ever. After like a post-premiere party where all the British comedians came. So people like, Ben Elton, Stephen, Hugh Laurie, Brian Laurie, the Young Ones cast and all that stuff. And I got totally drunk with Rick Mail. And right now I just need to move on because you weren't even born at the time. Wow.
I'm sorry. I can only apologize for the luck of birth.
Mohammed Zakaria here. Speed came out in 94. I obviously I was at Fox at the time. I worked on that movie. I was very young in my career, by the way, but still Tom wasn't born. Tom was born the year Speed came out. Jeez, I think I'll just move on. I was going to tell everyone about my mammogram today, but I'm just done. So Tom, let's talk about football. Oh my God. My world is shook. Arsenal's world might be shook. Last time we spoke, we were talking about whether or not this was going to be a dry January. We had a big discussion about all on Bukayo's shoulders. And now Bukayo is injured, of course. Horrific for us. Did this also mean that they're going to put the trust in the young players? And you know what? Before we start on the who's and the how's and the deal or no deals that I want to get stuck into you with is I was talking to James, AFC James. Yeah.
Oh, James B. Yes.
James B. Yeah. And no, not AFTV, the sports psychologist, James.
Okay.
Right. Who's on with Faisal sometimes.
Yeah.
So I was talking to him after the Ipswich game, and I said I never had on my bingo card that Miles Lewis-Skelly would be in the position he is right now before Nwaneri. Never had that on my bingo card. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about, before we get stuck into who are we going to sign, how much we're going to spend, if they don't spend this, that, and the other, I want to touch on the in-house stuff, right? Yeah. Because Trossard signed a new deal. There was interest in Saudi. Sterling's injured. I'll come to him in a second. How is it, Lewis-Skelly? Is it by default because of what's happened in the left back position? But also, you could argue, wouldn't it have been by default when Odegaard was injured that Nwaneri would be given his chance? Does he assess them? Does he not think they're on the same level right now?
No, I just think that obviously Nwaneri being an attacking player has just garnered a lot more kind of attention from the Arsenal fan base. And so naturally we kind of psychologically are more enamored by flair and goals and assists and things like that. So when another young guy is coming through that not necessarily is pulling up the same amount of trees because he's not producing in those same ways as an attacking player is, we don't tend to see it. But the reality is that Arteta has been very keen on Miles Lewis-Skelly for a long time. Because every single time Nwaneri started training with the first team, Lewis-Skelly started training with the first team. When Nwaneri was getting on the bench, Lewis-Skelly was getting on the bench. When they were getting opportunities to play games, Lewis-Skelly was always in the fold as well. You know, I know that Nwaneri got the opportunity to make his Premier League debut, but there was a lot more to do with kind of the contract scenario, I think, with that than was made out. You know, the whole thing where we can both laugh at Jason Cundy when he did the whole thing about,
Yeah.
Waneri and the arrogance of Arteta. They gave him that debut as part of a show of trust and faith and intent for his future that led to him signing that contract. Whereas Miles Lewis-Skelly was far more kind of, I think, of the idea that he was never thinking of moving on from Arsenal. That was very much a professional contract that was going to be signed. And as a result, he's earned a lot of faith and earned a lot of credit from Mikel Arteta, and that's been repaid. And this isn't like, I remember when Smith Rowe kind of first got into the team. And despite the fact that he did really, really well, the fact that kind of we had a couple of injuries and he kind of fell into the position a little bit on Boxing Day against Chelsea, Arteta was never really credited too much with Smith Rowe's integration. It was always kind of thought it was forced on him. He kind of had to use him, even though he had Joe Willock in the squad at the same time, and decided instead of Joe Willock to go with Smith Rowe. This time around, there's been left-backs galore available to us. On the bench the other day when we started at home, we had 4 left-backs against Ipswich that are on the bench. And instead of going with Calafiori or Zinchenko or Kivior, we've instead gone with Miles Lewis-Skelly, Tierney as well, of course, the other one. We've gone with Miles Lewis-Skelly for this game. Arteta has very much been a big fan of this guy coming through the ranks for a while. Remember the Liverpool game, of course, when we had injuries at the back, he had Zinchenko on the bench there, brings on Miles Lewis-Skelly to finish the game instead of Zinchenko. He is choosing to use him. And I don't feel like Arteta necessarily has been given, because, last season, there was a lot of chat about Arteta doesn't use kids, doesn't give debuts to youngsters enough, doesn't put enough faith in the youngsters enough. But Miles Lewis-Skelly's now been the starting left back, despite the availability of others for a fair few games. And no one's really talking about that. So I think that both Arteta, but more so, of course, Miles Lewis-Skelly for his performances, deserves plenty of credit.
Yeah. I know that they're not similarly. I mean, I think because he's playing, in that left role right now, it just reminds me, and you're not old enough, by the way, when I first saw Ashley Cole play. And it was like, there's certain players that just play a game and you're like, wow, right? And it's an indelible kind of, imprint. And Lewis-Skelly, to me, I think when the expectation, it's a little bit like Prince William and Prince Harry. By the way, I'm just coming up with this. Prince William, all the expectations, all the pressure, he's the future king. Prince Harry can go off, do what he wants, has kind of led the spare life until, didn't agree with him or whatever. But one's living in the main spotlight and the other one is kind of in the spotlight.
Yeah.
And to me, it felt always like Waneri, since, like you mentioned, the substitution, what Jason said, and the expectations. Miles Lewis-Skelly has been able to just operate under the radar and under the spotlight. Whereas Waneri's been the next one. It's always like Jack, Cesc, Saka, Emile Smith Rowe, and it felt like Waneri, Patino, Waneri. And I also think that maybe because that position that Lewis-Skelly is operating in has been questionable for a lot of Arsenal fans, he's dominated it and he's just played like he belongs there. Whereas I think for Waneri, Tom, like Odegaard, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough nut to crack, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about 2 of our best players. Is that fair?
Oh, 100%. Like the left back position is just so much of a difference to the attacking midfield filled by the player of, Arsenal's voted player of the year for the last 2 seasons in a row. And then on the right wing slot, which is somewhere else I think he could potentially play, is filled, prior to his injury by Arsenal's talismanic figure in Bukayo Saka. So this idea that a 17-year-old is going to come into the squad and, be the depth option for that position is something that we need to give some time to. But realistically, the expectations for those roles compared to the role that Lewis-Skelly is coming into, it's very, very different. It's hugely, hugely different. And for that, I empathise with why Arteta's had caution with throwing him, like Waneri in particular, into those, and why he's more willing to give Lewis-Skelly this chance, because Lewis-Skelly's got Gabriel, Saliba and Timber in the back four most of the time when he plays, if he's got those players available. But Waneri, is being expected to fill the shoes of either one of the most influential players in the Arsenal team when he plays. And that's a massive expectation. And to be fair to him, you know, he's been given opportunities this season. He's taken them in certain games. He's not always been, you know, he's not always come off the bench. More recently, his kind of substitute performances haven't necessarily caught the eye the same as they were at the beginning of the season. But yeah, I think that with Saka out now, there's a really good opportunity, I think, to give Nwaneri some minutes on the right. I'm talking as a substitute at the end of games. I was a little bit disappointed he didn't get a chance to come off the bench against Ipswich. I think the scoreline was probably the reason as to why. But yeah, I'd like to see him get some minutes on the right-hand side because I think that's an area where we could see it happen.
Just a real quick one before we move on. Carol asked an interesting question. Could MLS eventually play left midfield? We had a busload of LBs, but he's a midfielder by trade, no?
Yeah,
Tom?
yeah. And this is why in the future, I think that when you're looking at squad building, you look at Jorginho and Partey moving on, you know, because their contract's expiring. And you think that, yes, we definitely need to make a signing in there. But I also think that there is such depth at left back. I think there's still potentially a signing to be made in defence as well in those fullback areas with Tomiyasu, Zinchenko, Tierney, all going to be moving on, we expect as well. So you're going to have to make a signing there. I think that Lewis Skelly, while he breaks into the team at left back, ironically quite similar to Bukayo Saka, that gradually kind of works his way into his more natural role in the midfield as he develops.
Okay. All right, cool. Let's get stuck into news and stuff and other bits and bobs. Get your questions in if you want. We'll ask Tom some questions at the end. Highlight it with the Q. So there's lots that's been swirling around. I'm just going to throw stuff out to you. It might be crazy. It might be not. I've decided to go with a lovely color pink for today's presentation, everybody. A name that has appeared over the last couple of days. I like to watch a little Serie A. I always like a little AS Roma. I was a big Totti and De Rossi fan back in the day. And, you know, really enjoy watching Italian football. I was surprised about this, but Tom, Lorenzo Pellegrini, and this is Arsenal deal or no deal. You can say yes or no, or what the truth is to this if it's a reality. Why would Roma part with him as well?
I think it's the case of kind of like Roma are, in a way, have moved on from Pellegrini in his role. They play, you know, more so with more wider talents in a kind of a wing back situation and two deeper midfielders, and Pellegrini kind of fits more so an attacking midfielder type role. You know, we know that Arsenal, you know, when Odegaard was out, were really lacking in that department. Yes, we just talked about Nwaneri being there, but they were lacking it. So, but for the record, this is just interest, you know, and he's a player that, you know, will be potentially on the move in January. And so therefore you're going to see clubs like Arsenal, who have been touted as a club that are on the market for attacking opportunities. You know, naturally, I think they're going to get linked or mentioned in links, or you're going to see kind of representatives doing what they do in the market to kind of drum up interest in a player. And I think, you know, linking Arsenal to a player is often a common theme that we see, you know, in markets when there's not necessarily that much realism in it. So I would be very surprised to see this happen. I'm not in favour of it, just because I think Arsenal have got far bigger priorities to spend money on. He's a decent player, but I just don't think he's for us. So no deal.
Yeah. Okay. No deal. Okay. Good. By the way, Kevin, it's past Christmas. The stockings are empty now. I mean, you know, we're moving on to New Year's. No deal all the way around. No one has said deal. Okay. So this gets even more interesting. And look, guys, don't shoot me. I'm just going by what I'm hearing, what's being reported, what's in the news. I like and have always been a fan of Kingsley Coman. I know that a player like him, Tom, is, you know, high end. What's the scoop with this? For you, deal or no deal? Rubbish? Never? Why would he leave Bayern?
Well, he'd leave Bayern because he doesn't necessarily get loads of minutes for them, because, of course, they've got a lot of options. Bayern Munich, he's only played, just having a look at his stats, 620 league minutes this season, 13 appearances. The majority of those have come from the bench. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those 13 appearances were substitute appearances in the league. But he's out injured again at the moment. He's got a torn muscle fibre right now. He's missed the last 2 league games for them. And that is the big thing with Coman. He's just constantly injured. So I just don't think that this would be a smart... If this was Kingsley Coman fit and you know he was going to be available for a season, I would have far rather seen him than Raheem Sterling arrive in the summer on a loan deal. But you just can't rely on him to stay fit. So I don't think you could jump on this one.
Okay. Yeah, the injury thing is a huge concern. Okay, we're getting some more interesting situations here with some of these assets. I like to call them assets. Mateus, Tom, he's made it clear how he feels about the Arsenal. He's a fan. This is actually a Now Arsenal picture, not AP. My mistake. Apologies about that. Mateus Cunha. What say you, Thomas?
I say that I think he's an impressive player. My issue with this is that I just don't know how he fits into things for us. I think that while he's a really kind of a talented player and will get goals if he plays in his best positions, he's not really a wide player. He's more of kind of a supporting attacking option. He can play as a centre forward, but he's a very similar profile to Kai Havertz.
Oh dear, don't say that. Blasphemy.
Oh, yeah, I know. But Kai Havertz, for me, his best position is as a second striker, playing off of a more natural centre forward, not as a 10, a little bit more advanced than a 10. And I think that Cunha is kind of that kind of profile of player. So we've already got that in Havertz, and in terms of depth, I just think that we need to be looking for more of a stylistic winger, wide forward type than Cunha. But he's really been one of the only ones to see like a credible link to. We know Arsenal have held an interest in him for a long time. We know that they've been impressed by his transition to the Premier League with Wolves, but just not one that's kind of, again, led Arsenal to jump. And if we were sitting here in the summer window, I don't think any of us would really be saying, oh, yeah, let's go sign Cunha. And I'm just not sure that I would therefore jump on that deal now.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with you. And I'm gonna give you some thoughts on a couple of things. Okay. Here we go. Next one. By the way, 365 scores. This rendering of Kudus in an Arsenal shirt is very sexy. And you could argue that against Liverpool, he was the only one that really had a little bit of an X factor. But like Lorenzo Pellegrini, like you talk about Kingsley Coman, who's a very talented player, Mateus Cunha, this guy, do they take us to the next level? Does Kudus and they're talking like what, 80, 100?
85 million release clause is what it. I don't know if that's only available in the summer. I think that release clause might only be active in the summer. There's been suggestions that West Ham might accept a lower fee for Kudus, which I don't know why, but there's been some suggestions that it is. I personally think if Arsenal can get Mohamed Kudus, they absolutely should. I think that he's a player that has got that sparkle, that ability to beat a player, that extra factor that Arsenal, I think, have needed in the team for quite a while. I think he's got the potential to upgrade our starting 11. Even when Saka returns, I think he could potentially start on the left over Martinelli. I think if Ødegaard is out, you can play him behind the centre forward. I think if our strikers are out, you can play him as a centre forward. I really like Kudus as an option. There are question marks about kind of the temperament. We saw him, of course, lose his head a little bit earlier on in the season. For me, of all the players we talked about so far, Kudus is clear of all of them. And if it was to happen, I'd be delighted, I think.
Well, the squaddies agree. It's been an overwhelming deal, except for Barry, who says he'll take Semenyo over Kudus. Kudus is not great when over on the left, according to West Ham fans, I know. So what do we do when Saka comes back? Kudus only, please. He has that swagger. Kudus is a proper ball carrier. It's by the way, has Cunha's ban been implemented yet? I don't think.
I think it's still on. He had until I can't remember what the date was. He had until some date to respond, and then they'll ban him. I can't see how he gets away without a ban.
No, and with him, I'm sorry, he doesn't elevate our team. He doesn't.
He doesn't start for us when everyone's fit. He doesn't start I mean, if you go through the team, so you got your best 11. Is he better than Trossard? I don't think so. Is he better than Jesus at the moment? Probably. I mean, Jesus has been very good form of late, but is he that much better than Jesus in terms of an option for our attack? I don't think so.
Something about it that just feels to me like I'm about the inches and crossing over the edge, right? And to me, these seem like squad players, which we need. There's no doubt about it, but not for that price. So I have very high expectations of the next level of players that we bring in if we want to. Because if we keep doing the same thing, you can't keep hiring the same, buying the same level. It's not going to get you the Premier League. It's not going to get you the Champions League. You need that next level. And I'm not sure that he's that next level. Here's a player that I actually believe could be next level. And the type of player that can come off the bench, that can start in certain games. I've been a fan covering CONCACAF in the Americas, of course. I'm a huge fan of Jonathan David. Deal or no deal? Talk me in or out of this, Tom Canton. What do you say? And by the way, News Insta One, another great rendering.
In January, I don't think it's worth going for him in January, but I think if you can kind of grab him on a pre-contract agreement for the summer, because his contract's in that situation, I think it would be, a really good piece of business to replace Gabriel Jesus with Jonathan David, because I don't think it then changes, what you do in terms of the summer for your centre forward. That we all know we want to go for a top centre forward. And I think if you strike a pre-contract agreement and sign him on a free, sell Jesus, you've got a great, foundation there, not just with Jonathan David, but then you're bringing in potentially somebody else on top of that as well. So I think, a really good replacement for Jesus. Pre-contract agreement only, though. I'm not spending any money on a player whose contract expires in the summer.
Okay, all right, Jonathan David. But what do you think stylistically? Aerially strong, good position. I think I've been watching him for a while now. He's a very smart footballer, gets in the right spots, drags defenders, very strong in the air, seems to have the attributes that we need to kind of have a plan B, let alone a plan A.
Yeah, absolutely. And his goal record speaks for itself. He's a regular goal scorer with Lille. There's always been a consistent goal scorer with them. So there's been a big part, along with Alphonso Davies, of Canada's rise on the international stage and getting to a World Cup as well. And I think that you look at, that kind of level that he's been playing at, and now at 24 years of age, he needs to take that next step. Last season, he got 19 goals in 34 matches, four assists across all competitions, 26 goals, 9 assists. That season, I think on a free for Arsenal, it would be an absolute no-brainer.
Okay. By the way, he's a mixed bag in the chat. It's really interesting. No deal. Then we have yes deal. So talented. It's so mixed. And I just missed this on Kamal. And what's annoying about Kudus is he was available for Arsenal to sign before blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Arsenal couldn't sign him at that point. So it's when he moved to West Ham, Arsenal were in a position where the only player they could sign was David Raya on loan. So that kind of told you the restrictions that were in place for us at that point.
Yeah. I'm going to save this question for the end because I love this. I love it. Okay. Oh, look at this. Do either of you knobs even watch Liga? Well, firstly, I don't have a knob. Okay. All right.
God, the doctor is not in session.
Doctor is not in session. And also, are you a doctor? If you are, geez, did you not learn any manners in medical school? Did I not just say I love Jonathan David? Did I not just laud the guy? And why don't you educate us? Wow. I haven't had a knob. The squaddies will let him know.
You're going to get that clip so bad. Oh, dear.
Honey, I had a mammogram this morning, so here we are talking about knobs. Bed knobs and broomsticks. That's great. That's the internet for you, says Jonathan. Yeah. Go on, squaddies. Answer his question. Fine. I watch, okay. I watch French teams when they're playing in Europe. I do not sit on my couch every weekend watching Liga. I did do multiple shows on a global level for a network called World Football Daily, where I watch Liga, Bundesliga, La Liga, the Dutch League, South American football, North American football, Italian football for years and years and years. All right? I'm not a knob. I know my football.
I'm just picking up a microphone so you can drop it, Sophie.
Keep them coming. All right? Ridiculous. Jonathan David is a player I followed because of all the coverage that I work on for Gold Cup, for World Cup qualifiers, for CONCACAF overall. So, what's your next question? I'm waiting.
My impression, they're hiding behind their keyboards, Sophie. Well, they're hiding behind those keyboards.
We're going to get to that at the end. Jesus. It's funny because we don't usually get knob stuff in our chat. 200 in live chat.
You're killing me. This is.
Shall I get to the next player? Well done, Newman.
I'm so glad people can't leave pictures. That would be horrendous.
Stay tuned to the end, Newman. It might just be your night. Who knows? We'll see. Okay. Let's get to the next one. This one I don't get. This one, I don't understand. I've seen him play in the Premier League. I know he's been on fire for Atalanta. He had the most signature moment of his career in the Europa League final. He was brilliant. I mean, what a performance.
Yeah.
Talk me into this, maybe. I just don't see it. I don't think he elevates our team.
Really?
Yeah, Lookman, I don't. I think he's a one-season wonder.
I don't agree. I think that there is a good body of work from his time with Atalanta now. Consistently he's in double figures for his last 3 seasons, and that's not just with goals, but he's getting significant numbers of assists for them as well. They're currently the problem we've got is Atalanta are currently top of Serie A. So the idea that we're going to take their best player is a tricky one. You're talking about probably the player who is currently the best in Serie A right now. But his record speaks for itself. Last season, 17 goals, 10 assists. The season before that, 15 goals, 8 assists. Currently, this season, he's got 12 goals and 6 assists, and we're not even at the halfway mark yet. I think that the issue with Lookman is the price tag. I think that Atalanta would ask for an amount of money that Arsenal don't have, that we don't have the ability to spend in January. If you told me that we were signing him and a centre forward in the summer, and if it means not signing a winger now, and it was Lookman coming in the summer, that might convince me not to even move for one this January. But there's never any guarantees of that, of course. But he's up there with for me, Sophie's up there with my top picks.
Really?
Yeah.
So you think that he's an upgrade, because this is what it's all about, right?
100%. 100%. I just feel like I can count on him more consistently to beat a man, to combine, to get in the box, to be confident. He's had that experience in the Premier League already with those clubs, and I think he's got unfinished business as well. I think he's got motivation. I think he needs that next step.
Is he better than? And I know you're going to correct me on my pronunciation, but is he better than Retegui?
Retegui. Retegui. I think Retegui, right? Retegui.
Yeah.
Retegui.
Retegui. Yeah.
Retegui. Retegui obviously is kind of their main focal centre forwards. We've already played against him this season. He's already missed a penalty against Arsenal this season. David Rice saving it. But he too, 12 goals, 17 games in Serie A this campaign. He's done a very good campaign again. He's scored against some decent teams as well. He's got a goal against Fiorentina this season. He's got 3 against Genoa this season. I don't know that he is the answer for an Arsenal centre forward role, though.
Okay. By the way, there's a lot of love for Lookman, and a lot of people disagreeing with me, and I get it. Like, I'm always here to be educated. I see what I see.
Do you even watch Serie A? Do you even watch it?
You know what, Tom? Maybe I'm judging him on Premier League, not what he's doing now. Like, he had his shot for a couple teams, didn't really light up the world, and he's doing it in a league that is a little slower, more time on the ball. Managers definitely giving him the freedom, can be a little bit looser, not as rigid. So those are the things that concern me. But yeah, we'll see. What did I miss? My dog is an upgrade. Oh, God.
Honestly, what a loser.
Christ. Anyway, so if you do even watch Serie A, yeah, well, Tom just asked me that. All right, let's go on to the next one. So far we have a no deal on Lorenzo Pellegrini. We have a no deal on Kingsley Coman, and Tom and the squaddies are in cahoots on that one. We have a no deal on Mateus Cunha in general, even the squaddies, not totally sold. We have an overwhelming deal from the squaddies on Kudus, and Tom is also a fan. A mixed bag on Jonathan David at Lille from the squaddies, and Tom is a wait and see. Lookman so far is the undeniable deal. Get it done if he's available. And here's my next one. Probably one of my favorite players to watch right now. I think he has the X factor. I don't know if he's going to be one of those players that's kind of like a one-season wonder, Tom. But talk to me about Omar Marmoush, Eintracht Frankfurt. They're third in Bundesliga right now. He was player of the month twice, I think, so far this season. He is a fun player to watch. Deal or no deal?
I am really cautious about this one because he's been startlingly good this season. Really, really, really good. Like, his numbers are excellent. One of the issues I've got is that I watched Randall Kolo Muani do a very similar thing with Frankfurt prior to making that step up to a club of a higher standing in PSG, and it's not gone well. And really, it is just when you were talking about kind of Ademola Lookman and there being question marks about kind of his record. We saw Marmoush get 12 goals and 6 assists last season across all competition, but less than Havertz. And we're looking at him having a very good season this year already. 13 goals, 8 assists in 15 Bundesliga matches this season so far. 18 goals, 12 assists. It's that collaboration. It's that kind of the other workings with the other players in the team that look good. But again, I think there's a question mark sometimes about how a player fits into a system. And are Frankfurt, when they're going up against teams with Marmoush as their kind of focal point, if you will, are they going up against teams that are sitting in low blocks like Arsenal have to go up against? Is he going to have the space to be that collaborative force that we're seeing him utilize with his teammates in the Bundesliga so far? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that is going to happen for him. But he's doing it in a team that's quite limited in terms of its other contributors. You look at the other players in that Frankfurt side, and you're not seeing the biggest of names necessarily. So I think that it's impressive what he's doing, but I am somewhat hesitant to jump on the Marmoush train right now. Yeah.
Okay, before I get to some questions for you, so these are the players that I kind of laid out here. I know there's other players that we've been linked with. There's a reason why I haven't put Gyökeres and Isak up here because, there was actually, oh damn, I didn't load it. I had a Gyökeres, but let's just put this one up because one of the slides was release clause players. And are Arsenal going to be willing to do that, Tom? And Gyökeres is one of those players. Now, of course, his former manager's gone to Manchester United. Manchester United are going to be in a real rebuild. What's your thought on the release clause players out there? Also, we've got Nico Williams here that is having a horrible season, by the way, everyone. He's not having a great season. And talk about a player maybe to stay away from. But talk me through that a little bit.
Obviously release clauses are, and in particular like Gyökeres, for example. In the summer, we know Arsenal didn't have 100 million euros to drop on, one player. Mikel Arteta told us as much when he was asked specifically about one of the rare answers we get from him about transfers. And I think that the idea that the kind of the money that was made from Ramsdale and Nketiah on deadline day after we dropped 70 million on Calafiori and Mikael Merino in the summer, it doesn't mean that suddenly Arsenal can now in January go and activate a release clause. And release clauses in general have to also be paid predominantly up front, unless there is specific kind of agreement made between the clubs, which obviously also creates financial challenges. So if Arsenal are going to spend a huge sum, it's going to be in the summer when the next cycle of PSR starts for them, which opens up greater freedom of spending. There's also potentially deals to be done in the summer for some players leaving Arsenal, as we've talked about, like Jesus and Zinchenko and Tierney and Kivior and some others as well. We were seeing, some big wages potentially got off the books there. Partey's deal expiring, big wages getting off the books too. Jesus and Zinchenko on very decent, levels of finances. So the summer is really where you're looking at Arsenal having the ability to spend the really big bucks. So when it comes to January, players like Gyökeres, who, by the way, has already come out and said that he wants to stay until the end of the season with Sporting, I just don't see release clauses being a thing for Arsenal to explore at all this window.
Okay. By the way, I've just noticed I look blue, like literally like blue. Like Weekend at Bernie's blue. Elliot, welcome. Big up. Congrats to Tom. Yeah, we like that. Arda Güler, my Turkish friends will can correct me on that. Tom, let's talk about then players I haven't mentioned, because you've got Arda, you've got the Brentford players. You've got the Bournemouth players. The title of the show is What's the Reality as well. What are we looking at? Who have I not mentioned that should be in my conversation? And what is the reality of this transfer window for the Arsenal?
So the names I think that we maybe not covered are like Antoine Semenyo and Brian Mbeumo. But again, like these are players that, I like Mbeumo, and I think, I'd be delighted if he came to Arsenal, a right-sided, left-footed player that can also play through the middle. It's a profile that we really need. Lone Star brings up Rashford, we've not talked about, but I don't think Arsenal will be going anywhere near that. This is a really odd January for Arsenal because what we do here obviously will impact the summer in some ways, depending upon what it is. So I think that Arsenal absolutely have to bring forward kind of an attacking plan that they had for a wide player in the summer to January. It absolutely has to happen. That doesn't mean that I want us to go and sign just anybody. And we need to be really cautious about who it is we sign, but we absolutely have to sign someone. I don't want to see Arsenal signing Rafael Leao. I don't want Arsenal to go into the market and sign somebody that people play with on FIFA, but actually when you realise how inconsistent he is in real life and how much money it would also cost, it doesn't make any sense to sign someone like that. Meanwhile, Harvey's second suggestion of Dibbling, not Dibley, not a vicar.
The vicar of Dibley, I think he's thinking.
Indeed. Dibbling is actually could be potentially quite an astute piece of business. Who's a young player, can beat a man, really exciting, already got that Premier League experience as well. I think it's Arsenal need to find the right balance with the sign they get. It probably has to be a Premier League player, because in January, the players that are going to give you that immediate impact can't really have a pre-season and so forth to get up to speed. So you probably want that Premier League guarantee, which also means then spending quite a considerable amount. And then you have to think about how much money do we actually have to spend. And it's not a case of us moaning at the Cronkies to open up the Crankies, I nearly said. It's not a case of moaning at the Cronkies to kind of loosen their purse strings.
Oh, you remember the Crankies, do you? You're old enough for that.
I'm old enough for that. But it's not about that. It's about what is available for us to spend within the means. And so that obviously...
What are the means, Tom? What do you think the means are?
I think that a 40 to 50 million pound signing should be within reach for Arsenal this window. I'd struggle to see, unless someone really has some in-depth knowledge that I am unaware of, but I don't see why that wouldn't be. But I think if that's your limit, 40 to 50 million, that does rule out your Kuduses, your Lookmans, your Gyökeres certainly anyway. I think it rules out those. So I think it doesn't rule out potentially your Mbeuemos, your Semenyos, your Dibblings, players like that. I think they are potentially gettable.
Yeah, it's and Jasper's saying what a lot of people are thinking: 40 to 50 isn't a love. Mark Fandabi Dozy, the Crankies used to love it. Oh look, shall I put it up? You know what? Because we give people here second chances. Dr. Seymour will allow it. Should be loaning Tony.
But you shouldn't have given them a second chance.
No, not with us two on Tony. Okay, so let's get to some questions for you. This is why my Gabriel Peck pick is looking better and better. And by the way, the in-house solutions. Waneri, is he going to be given a chance? And here's what I don't want to see, right? So I have been hugely supportive of Sterling. And I've said to you, Tom, I don't think he's been given a proper chance. I think he's come in, he's done decent, he's had some stinkers, yes, but mostly we haven't really seen him flourish because he's not been really given the opportunities. There's been something missing for Arteta. I do not want to see a situation, right, where Sterling is going to be sold to me as the answer now. Because I think Arteta loses credibility there. Fair or foul?
I think if Sterling's the answer, then we're in a bit of bother, to be honest. Like, in-house issues, in-house options for us right now. Like, we were starting an 11 on Friday that had no senior attacking options on the bench. Zero. Like, Waneri is a midfielder. Like, he's not a forward. We had no senior forwards on the bench at all. Now, I think against Brentford, if he chooses the same lineup, he's a bit silly, because I think that's a game where you need to have someone on the bench who can change things. And so I would start somebody like Merino in midfield and have Havertz or Jesus on the bench that you can bring off the bench to change the game later on. I see why he went with that against Ipswich, because we knew we were going to be dominant and at home against a side in the bottom three right now. But Brentford are a different kettle of fish. But yeah, I think Waneri needs to be given opportunities. I think that we need to expose him to more minutes and more game time. I think we need to get Calafiori, of course, playing more as well at left back and get him back up to speed. When Sterling does come back, and the injury isn't as bad as what was first feared, supposedly, so hopefully he will be coming back, hopefully next month. And that does offer some depth, but he's really going to have to step up. The issue with Sterling is that there's not much motivation there for Sterling. Like, it's all well and good saying you're going to see the best of me. You know, it's a big statement he said when he joined Arsenal. You know, that's not like, I can't see that being something that if he's told to say it by the media team, that he's not. I mean, Sterling's got enough front to turn around and say, no, I'm not saying that. You know, I cannot see that not being something that he is kind of behind saying. So
yeah,
to say that and then to have, you know, to be in games where you're watching defenders shout at him to chase back and get back. I was at the Crystal Palace game in the League Cup, the midweek one, and there was a point in time where I saw 5 Arsenal players shout across the pitch to Sterling to beckon him over because he wasn't in the right position. And it's like you see those moments and you're like, he's just not with it. He's just not.
That's not right for a senior player of his, his ilk that's won so much. All right, let's get to some quick fire questions from you guys for Tom before we let him go. Over 200 of you in live chat. Hit the like button, kiss it, like it, love it. It will be fantastic for the channel. Tom, let's see. Do you think the Cronkies are traumatized by the Pepe failure? It would explain their reluctance to buy attackers over the years. That's from Jasper.
It's nothing to do with the Cronkies about who we buy, just for the record. Like, they are purely the people that hold the money. It's down to Arteta, was down to Edu, and the other parts of the recruitment staff. It's nothing to do with that. If they were traumatized by the Pepe deal, they wouldn't have dropped 105 million on Declan Rice. So it's nothing to do with them. So if you're frustrated at who it is we've signed or what positions, that energy goes to Arteta and Edu and the recruitment team. It doesn't go to the owners.
Okay, so I promised the squaddies I would never bring up the R word ever again. But when your listener asks the question, it would be remiss of me not to execute. And as they know, this show's all about them. Jonathan, we're short on attackers. Don't kill me, like I just said. But would you take Rashford if he reduced wages? Opportunity might be there. Tom?
No, just no.
Okay.
You can't make the same mistake twice. You can't sign Sterling on loan and then bring in Rashford. Like, it's just not sensible. This is somebody that has got a lot of goodwill. And he's done a lot of good things off the pitch here in the UK. But off the pitch has also got his demons, clearly. And has got these issues. And from a behaviour standpoint, is not where he needs to be. And I just think that in an Arteta team in particular, going for a title as we are, with these expectations, I'm not sure that you can justify that signing, especially on the money, even if it was to be reduced. Jonathan says, if it doesn't make sense, Arsenal will probably do it. Yeah, I never thought we'd sign Raheem Sterling, but we did. So, never say never, I guess. But I think it would be really ill-advised to do that deal.
Sammy's putting Jonathan on the naughty step. I love it. Brilliant. A quick one, Pappy the Chappy. If we were to sign someone from a club currently in the UAFCL, would they be barred from playing that competition? Are they cup tied with Champions League? They're not, are they? I thought only because Cross Jonkeys also asking about cup tied. They are cup tied in FA Cup and League Cup, are they not in the UK?
Let's have a look.
I don't think they are cup tied.
UEFA operates European club competitions primarily. Yes. The main current exception is the Super League. I mean, it doesn't seem to be anything about this.
After group stages, they're cup tied. Why? That doesn't make sense. Why would they do that?
Do you remember that thing where we signed Aubameyang from Dortmund, and because he'd played in the Champions League, he couldn't play for us in the Europa League?
Yeah.
Then that rule changed like the season after. So I'm not. But then I've seen an article here saying Champions League cup tied rule abolished from 2018.
Come on, squaddies. Give us the.
Okay, so it says from 2018 it means that for the first time a player could play for two different clubs in the group stage and the knockout rounds of the Champions League or the Europa League in the same season. Players could switch between competitions in the past,
they changed the rules,
but not stay in the same one with the second team. So it seems that you can play for two teams in the same season. But that was an article from 2018, so that may be out of date if they've changed it back, but I've not seen anything else.
Okay, so Shatanya's saying old format group stage concluded in November. Okay. So if there's a fire behind you, it's not. It's fine. Okay. Tom, here's one for you. I'm seeing as Shaitanya just alerting me to my fire. So do you think Man City are in the title race? Pep won't go down easy. Listen, they're 6 points behind Forest?
6 behind us, aren't they?
I mean, I have a real issue with, I got to say, after I watched Liverpool beat West Ham, I did post and say, like in Rocky IV, throw in the damn towel. I was I was saying I'm getting close to doing that. But I don't know. There's something about me that just won't let it go yet. I think there's another twist to the tail. Can they keep this up until May? Will they stay injury free? Will Manchester City go into the January transfer window? Will they get Zubimendi? Will they activate his release clause? You know, we don't know. I mean, have Manchester City gone through their adversity now? If there's a team that can go on a run, it's them, Tom. There's something about me that just won't let it go yet.
Yeah, and that's just because we've come to expect so much from them. You know, we know how consistent they can be, particularly in second halves of seasons. So I think that it's worth it's worth keeping an eye on them. But you know, Liverpool are the team that we should be focusing on and hoping for them to fall away. But we need to focus on ourselves more than anybody else. We just need to win the next game.
Are we still in it, Tom? Do you still believe? Is it done?
Yeah, until you're out of it. You know, I mean, we can go second by beating Brentford. I think it's mad how some people view Arsenal right now. I think it's nuts. So could be second in the league on Wednesday in the semi-finals of a League Cup competition. You know, top 3 of the Champions League right now. You know, honestly, so many Arsenal fans act like Tottenham fans these days. They hate on Arsenal more than anybody else.
So let's talk about that real quick before we finish, because there's one question here. In fact, there's several, and I'm just going to try and encapsulate it in this. Well, there's Boy that's talking about turning up their noses, but there's Progress Moses. Question: when is it that us Arsenal fans are the ones always giving excuses for the club not to spend money this January, and when the club wants to ingress ticket prices, they don't look back doing it? Okay, there's that. There's also the question of spending money. There's also the question of a couple people here and about giving up already this season. You know, giving up. Haven't even seen January transfer window. Haven't. I was listening to our good friend Potsy's show last night, and he won't mind me bringing this up. But I went in there and I was like, wow, this feels like Arsenal Armageddon, you know. I should save that for a future title show. Tom, talk to me. What's this? And look, I know I've had meltdowns in the past. I have. Yeah. But I was never extreme in my meltdowns. And also, what I think is that, you know, we're third in the Champions League table. A win against Brentford takes us back to second tomorrow. We're in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. We're in the FA Cup. It's going to be January. We played our best football last season, January through May. That's when we came alive. I know Saka is injured. Losing your best player doesn't help. But the angle of which some of this is attacked, maybe it's because I've had a tough year. I don't get it.
No, it's a brand. It's for some, it's a brand. I think there's a number of different kind of avenues with this. Hating on Arsenal and Arteta in particular, for some, is a brand. It's a character. It generates attention, engagement, whatever. There's then the other side of it, which is sadly those that buy into that and obviously convinced by it, and just are absolutely unwilling to listen to any other kind of reason. You know, I'm always very much of the what's the point of having a mind if you're not willing to change it type kind of view. Certainly Arteta changed my mind. You know, I wanted him gone after Villarreal. I said I don't see how any club could continue with their coach after we were knocked out by Villarreal in the Europa League, and Arteta proved me wrong, and I changed my mind on him as a manager. And I think that I think there's a spoiled, arrogant entitlement about part of it as well. Because, you know, as we've discussed, despite being the young age of 30, Sophie, I still have, you know, witnessed my fair share of Arsenal misery throughout my time, having last won the league in 2004. And it's not like Arsenal have come close to winning the league since that point until Arteta's come along. We've been so far off the title for year on year on year on year on year on season upon season upon season, so far off it. And then we bring Arteta in at a point where Arsenal, arguably since 2004, were at their absolute lowest, like the worst point since 2004 we had ever been as a club, sitting in 11th place in the table with a fractured group of players like Mustafi and David Luiz, and a team that couldn't defend. And we've gone from that in the space of 3 seasons to a team that then is competing with Manchester City for the title. The following year, going as close as finishing just 2 points off, having dropped only 2 games in the entirety of the second half of the campaign. And then, of course, end up with a points tally, rather a win tally and a goal tally that was more frustratingly than the Invincibles, and that still wasn't enough to grab a title. And then, of course, we go into this season and Liverpool finally fall off. But we experience one of the most unfortunate campaigns that we have ever had. This season has been the most adversity under the Arteta campaign that we've had to face in terms of things that have been out of our control. There's things that have been in our control that we absolutely should have done better with, but they're not anywhere near the magnitude of the suffering of injuries that we've had, the decisions that have gone against us. And people like to turn around and say, stop making excuses, to which I say, that's effing lazy. If you think that's an excuse, because it's a genuine, legitimate reason as to why Arsenal where they are, despite that fact, despite the fact that we've faced all of those things, the progress we're making to the point where if we win our next 2 games, Sophie, we'll be 2 points better off than we were at the same stage last season. A season where we finished just 2 points off Manchester City. If we win these next 2 games, we'll be 2 points better off after 20 games. This year, Arsenal have failed to concede more than 2 goals in any game. No team has put more than 2 goals past Arsenal this season, this calendar year. We've broken the away goal scoring record for a top flight English team this season. And for me, I just don't look at football in a binary way. For some, it's a case of trophies equal success. Everything else is failure. That's how some people look at it. And I can't look at football that way. I just can't. Yeah. Especially when I look at the context of what we're up against. Liverpool and Manchester City being our 2 biggest rivals for the title. Since Klopp came in, the money that's been spent on that squad. Since Pep came in, the money that's been spent on that squad. And what those squads looked like before those 2 managers took over. And of course, Arne Slot, what he's inherited at Liverpool this season, who's done a fantastic job, by the way, with Liverpool so far. It's nuts. Absolutely nuts. And it's not what frustrates me more is I think that so many of our supporters don't act like supporters. Like the clue's in the word, Sophie. As soon as there's an opportunity to hammer their own team, like a Tottenham fan wants to hammer an Arsenal side, they act like Spurs fans. There's so much hate for this club from within our own supposed family that it's absolutely nuts. And yet they expect, therefore, then their team to go out and bring us those titles, bring us those trophies, when as soon at a drop of a hat, they've got no qualms in utterly battering the players or the manager or anybody else associated with the team. It's nuts to me.
Yeah, it is. It kind of feels like, I just, over the last few months, I've rewatched the entire 6 or 7 seasons of The Sopranos, which is just genius television. And, one of the things, of course, I don't endorse what they do, but loyalty is really a big thing these days. And instant gratification is also a pandemic. And instant gratification is something that people not only seek in their sports, but sports is also a mirror image of what happens in society. Start a social media account, instant gratification, make money, go on TikTok, go on Instagram, go on wherever. There's this pandemic about the now, the everything. And there's less looking towards a path, milestones. And, I grew up in an era where it was about paths and milestones, working towards something, earning something. And as much as I want to win everything, I also feel like, barring the FA Cups under Wenger, the last 2 seasons have been some of the most fun I've ever had as an Arsenal fan. And to be that close to a Manchester City who've been so dominant and lauded as the greatest ever, even over the Invincibles and the Manchester United treble winning team, 4 in a row, you win the treble. Pep Guardiola's the greatest ever. And maybe with a little bit more experience, we would have got there, maybe with injuries.
It's a bit of luck.
Tom.
That's all we needed, so. Like 22-23, we were a Saliba injury away from winning the league, in my view. Had Saliba been fit in those last 10 games, I think we win the league. And last season, it's so gutting that like the Aston Villa game, obviously, we look at and go, that sucks. And not only that, go back to 2023 as well. You think about the drama we had in that Brentford home game. The game before we play Man City, we should beat Brentford. And a VAR error, mistake that gives Tony a goal he should never have had. Like the chances of that, it's weirdly high. Like it's strangely high how much goes against us in those. Like if you look at, I think it's Dale Johnson of ESPN, he has like a running tally each year of the VAR points tallies that have gone against them for clubs. Arsenal are always well far down, and Liverpool and Man City are always well far up. It's nuts, that to me. And it's like, and also what I will say is that I know I get a lot of hate in the chat box all the time when I have these views. I do phone in. I'm doing a phone in show tomorrow, actually, morning. These people never show up. Never, ever, 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 ever. The ones that do show up and challenge me are genuinely nice people. Like the people that have a different view to me that come on the show, phone in, come on the channel and have a chat. Lovely people. And we'll have a really good conversation. We might not agree, but we'll have a lovely chat and we'll part as mates. The people that are obviously in the chat box and are kind of disrespectful and whatever never show up. They're absolute cowards. They live in their parents' basements and don't say a word. They are absolute cowards because they don't have a conversation with you. They're not willing to do that, because it's easy to sit behind your keyboard and spew some horrible rhetoric about somebody that you don't know in real life. But when it comes to actually having a conversation and to being challenged on your points of view and to hold up and back up the points, suddenly that creates a really difficult scenario for people. So I don't take it personally anymore. I used to, but I don't, because I just think about, I just kind of put myself in their shoes and thinking, it's not someone that's worth worrying about. Because the people that I'm worth worrying about, the people that I actually invite onto the shows and say, look, it's open season. Come on, have a chat. Ask me questions, challenge me on something. I'll challenge you back, but it's nuts. And if you can do it in a respectful way, which is obviously the other part of the conversation, because I'm not going to entertain anyone abusive, but if you're going to come on the conversation, have a chat about it, I'm more than happy to do that. So
I love that. I absolutely love that. And there's a lot of respect coming your way. And by the way, they're loving the stat that you gave about the points versus last season and these next. And by the way,
people know that
Brentford and Brighton, they are not going to be easy games. Quick prediction on Brentford, Tom. And your starting 11, are you going to put Martinelli out on the right for this one, or do you want to see Nwaneri being given that chance?
I don't think he will put Nwaneri on the right. I think he might give him some minutes. I think I'll go. I still think it'll be a pretty tight game. It'll be 2-1 Arsenal. I agree with Kwame. I'll go.
Beat me to the
stealing your scoreline, Kwame. I promise. I'll go Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, Rice, Marino, Odegaard, Martinelli, Havertz, Trossard. That's what I think it'll be. Not what I want it to be. That's what I think it'll be.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he'll give Nwaneri a shot if, things aren't going too well. He'll give him a 25-minute, half hour in the second half, depending on, I think confidence-wise, Nwaneri needs a game. I think it's important. And we've got the Newcastle game coming up, which, by the way, our good friend Warren Barton will be joining us on the show next Monday to preview Newcastle versus Arsenal in the semi-final. We have Natalie Sawyer coming up on Thursday to do a post-game show with us on Brentford. We love Natalie. She does a great job on TalkSport Breakfast. And there's a really big guest coming on in January, which I really want to say something about, but I can't, because just in case it doesn't happen, I'll just be gutted. But let's just say, if you're looking for a guest in a January month, this might be the guest that all Arsenal fans will want to hear from. So that's all I'm going to say. Listen, it has been amazing. I have some things to give out, but I'm going to do it on the post-game show on Wednesday. After Brentford, join me live. and I'll be giving out the Invincibles coin to a very lucky winner who sent a fabulous story. And also be giving out some other goodies to start off the new year in a very positive light. Tom, I want to say thank you for joining me not only tonight, but throughout this season. It has been a joy seeing you grow, and we're very proud of you for what you've done. And we're looking forward to what the chief Arsenal writer is going to be doing at Football London this coming season. I'm assuming you're going to be up at the crack of crack tomorrow with a transfer show. Now it's not the news show, it's the transfer show, right?
Show now. Yeah, we always kick them off a month before the window opens. Transfer show. As I said, it's a phone in. So
maybe I'll phone in.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Tell me where I'm wrong, so please.
Newman, you're going to have to wait until Wednesday, where the squaddies will decide if Newman finally gets a coin. I know what Super Kev would say.
I don't think so.
And I think Tom
no.
is echoing.
I'm voting a definite no.
Brilliant. Let's go watch some football, shall we? Apparently Ipswich are winning and Manchester United are losing. So
Chelsea
it doesn't.
Equalised. Sorry.
Oh, have they? Of course. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Okay, Tom, thanks so much for joining. Kept him 10 minutes Qatar time over. Wishing you all a very, very happy New Year. Tom, are you partying this New Year's Eve?
No, don't think so. So chilling with the family. I'm 30 now. I'm in bed by 9. So
yeah, I celebrate New Year when it hits New York. It's the longest day of the year for me and Tony because our Australian family call us, then our friends in Hong Kong call us, then the family in Cyprus call us, then the family in England, then our East Coast friends call us, then it's us. It's like the longest day of the year. Seriously, we want to be in bed by 6. But you know that because I was born in 1902 and you were born in 94. All right, squaddies, thank you so much for your love. It has not been the easiest year. And we'll talk a little bit more about this on New Year's Day after the Brentford game. But I can't begin to tell you how much I have appreciated all your love and your support and the love that you have for each other. That's always the thing that Super Kev and I were the proudest most about, is that you have always made friends, and much like Tom's community, you have respect for each other, you greet each other, you get together at games, you connect on a different level, and it means the world to me. And it was Super Kev's son's birthday the other day, Tyrese. Happy birthday to you. We hope you had a wonderful day. And to anyone out there who's found it tough this Christmas time, whether it's love, loss, someone missing from your table, someone who's going to be missing from clinking glasses with you on New Year's Eve, my thoughts are with you. I love you all so much. Don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. And let's hope for a absolutely banging 2025. Squaddies, at ease.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Oh, I so want Netweed to call you Tom.
He won't. He won't.